Imagine waking up in the Ice Age. No house, no food, no rescue. Before you can hunt, build a shelter, or protect your family, you must master 15 survival skills used every single day. Miss just one, and you may never see another sunrise. Number 15. Read the sky or die. Every Ice Age morning began with one question. Do we leave camp today, or stay alive by staying here? To us, it sounds simple. To an Ice Age family, it could decide who lived to see another sunrise. Before anyone picked up a spear or followed migrating reindeer, the oldest hunters studied the sky, the wind, the frost, and the forest. 20,000 years ago, there were no weather forecasts, satellites, or radar. Survival depended on reading subtle signs. A north wind warned of falling temperatures, thin feather-like clouds signaled an approaching weather front, and frost lingering after sunrise promised another bitterly cold day. Alone, these clues meant little. Together, they predicted the weather. Ignoring them could be fatal. A blizzard erased animal tracks, fresh snow concealed frozen streams and hidden cliffs, and strong winds made fires harder to maintain while stripping body heat. Even a successful hunter could freeze before reaching camp. That's why experienced groups didn't ask only, "Can we hunt today?" They first asked, "Should we?" Sometimes, staying beside the fire was the smartest survival decision. Archaeology confirms this remarkable environmental knowledge. Upper Paleolithic camps across Europe and Western Asia shifted with the seasons as temperatures changed, herds migrated, and resources moved across the landscape, proving these people weren't wandering randomly, but reading their environment with extraordinary accuracy. Modern indigenous hunters still rely on many of the same signs: wind, cloud formations, bird activity, and frost to anticipate changing weather. Science explains these patterns today. Ice Age people simply called them experience. The greatest hunter wasn't the one who threw a spear the farthest. It was the one who knew when not to throw it. Because survival always began before the first step. And once the sky finally said it was safe to leave, there was still one thing no family could afford to lose: fire. Number 14. Never let the fire die. If the sky decided whether you could leave camp, fire decided whether you could survive the night. Unlike today, making fire from scratch required dry tinder, suitable wood, skill, time, and favorable weather. Wind, snow, or damp fuel could turn a routine task into a desperate struggle, so experienced families rarely let their fire die. Instead, they protected glowing embers beneath a layer of ash, where they remained alive long after the flames disappeared. A careful breath and fresh fuel could bring them back within minutes, saving precious energy in a world where every calorie mattered. That energy was essential. Ice Age hunters burned thousands of calories crossing frozen terrain, carrying meat, gathering firewood, and enduring relentless cold, rebuilding a fire-wasted strength they couldn't afford to lose. Fire also transformed daily life. It cooked food, destroyed many harmful microorganisms, softened frozen marrow, dried hides before they rotted, hardened wooden spear tips, provided light to repair tools after sunset, kept children warm, helped elders survive, and became the place where stories and survival knowledge passed from one generation to the next. In many ways, civilization began around the fire. Archaeologists have uncovered thousands of Ice Age hearths containing charcoal, burned bones, cracked stones, and thick layers of ash left by repeated use. Some camps were rebuilt around the same hearths, showing that families deliberately returned to places where fire already stood at the center of daily life. Fire also gave humans an advantage over predators. Lions, wolves, and hyenas often avoided bright flames and drifting smoke, creating a barrier many dangerous animals preferred not to cross. It wasn't perfect protection, but it often made humans a riskier target than easier prey. The people who survived the Ice Age didn't simply know how to make fire. They knew how to keep it alive, because the easiest fire to build was the one that never went out. But even the warmest fire couldn't solve every problem. Sooner or later, every family needed water. Number 13. Every drop can kill. Water seemed impossible to run out of. Snow covered the land, rivers froze solid, and glaciers stretched across entire valleys. Yet people still died of thirst, because not all water was safe, and not all ice was your friend. Eating snow felt like the obvious solution, but it came at a cost. Before the body could use it, the snow had to melt and warm to body temperature, consuming precious heat and forcing the body to burn even more calories. Experienced Ice Age people avoided that loss whenever possible by melting snow and ice over fire in skin bags, stone-lined pits, or other natural containers, letting the fire, not the human body, provide the heat. Finding water, however, was only half the challenge. Choosing the right source mattered even more. A crystal-clear stream could carry bacteria from a dead animal upstream. Shallow rivers crossed by herds could be contaminated with parasites and waste, and stagnant pools beneath melting ice posed even greater risks. Without modern medicine, a severe stomach illness could become fatal, weakening both the hunter and the entire group. Observation became their greatest defense. Fast-flowing streams were generally safer than standing water. Fresh snow collected away from animal trails was usually cleaner than old snow near camp, and reliable fresh water attracted grazing animals, birds, and people alike, making it both valuable and heavily used. Archaeology reflects this pattern remarkably well. Many Upper Paleolithic camps were built beside rivers, lakes, and natural springs that supplied dependable drinking water while attracting migrating herds, making them ideal places to hunt, butcher animals, and live for extended periods. Water shaped where people settled, traveled, hunted, and raised their families. A reliable source could sustain a community for weeks. A poor one could quietly destroy it. The people who survived the Ice Age didn't simply drink when they were thirsty. They learned which water deserved their trust. Because in a world without hospitals, one careless drink could be just as deadly as one careless hunt. And after protecting the water that entered their bodies, they still had to protect the warmth that stayed around them, because the next battle wasn't against thirst. It was against the cold itself. Number 12. Dress for the cold, not the style. Cold rarely kills all at once. It steals body heat little by little until your hands stop working, your thoughts slow down, and your body begins to fail. Ice Age people learned this through experience. One thick hide wasn't enough. Layers worked better. A soft inner layer trapped warm air against the skin, a thicker outer layer blocked the wind, and extra fur protected the head, hands, and feet, where heat escaped fastest. Modern cold weather clothing follows the same principle for one reason. It works. Staying warm, however, also meant staying dry. Hours of walking through deep snow made hunters sweat, and once they stopped, damp clothing pulled heat away from the body far faster than dry air. A hunter who felt comfortable while moving could become dangerously cold within minutes. That's why experienced people walked at a steady pace, adjusted their clothing before overheating, and dried wet hides beside the fire before wearing them again. Archaeology shows their clothing was far more advanced than many imagine. Bone needles dating back about 30,000 years prove they stitched fitted garments instead of simply wrapping hides around themselves, creating sleeves, leggings, footwear, and clothing designed to trap heat without restricting movement. Stone scrapers reveal the enormous effort behind every hide, which had to be cleaned, scraped, softened, stretched, and carefully prepared before becoming usable clothing. Nothing was wasted. Meat fed the family, bones became tools, sinew became thread, and hides became clothing people carried on their own bodies. In many ways, clothing became humanity's first personal survival technology, allowing people to thrive in environments that would otherwise have been impossible to survive. The Ice Age wasn't conquered by stronger humans. It was conquered by smarter ones. Sometimes the best protection wasn't a bigger fire. It was the thin layer of warm air trapped beneath a carefully stitched hide. And once people learned to protect themselves from the cold, they still had to read the ground beneath their feet, because every footprint told a story. Number 11. The ground never lies. Long before humans learned to write, the ground recorded every story. Every footprint, broken branch, crushed patch of grass, and trail through fresh snow left clues for anyone who knew how to read them. To an inexperienced eye, tracks were just footprints. To an experienced Ice Age hunter, they revealed the animal's species, age, speed, direction, and how recently it had passed. Sharp edges meant a fresh trail, while wind-softened tracks or snow settling inside showed the herd had moved on. Following a fresh trail could lead to food. Following an old one could waste an entire day's energy. The best trackers looked beyond individual footprints. A herd suddenly spreading apart, lengthening its stride, or changing direction signaled danger. If large paw prints crossed the same trail, the story became clear. The herd wasn't simply moving, it was fleeing, and the predator might still be nearby. Tracking wasn't just about finding prey. It was about avoiding becoming prey. Broken branches revealed direction. Fresh droppings showed how recently animals had passed, and disturbed snow-marked places where herds had stopped to feed. Small clues combined into a complete picture. Archaeology demonstrates how advanced these skills became. Across Europe, enormous kill sites containing reindeer, horses, bison, and mammoths reveal carefully planned hunts rather than chance encounters, while fossilized footprints preserve humans walking alongside mammoths, giant deer, wolves, and other Ice Age animals. These rare discoveries capture moments of hunting, searching, and surviving frozen in time. Sometimes a fresh cave lion track near camp, a wolf pack circling a frozen river, or a mammoth herd entering a narrow valley was enough to change the entire plan. Move forward, turn back, or wait. The greatest tracker wasn't the one who followed every trail. It was the one who chose the right one. Because every journey cost energy, and every decision determined whether that energy was spent wisely. The next challenge wasn't finding food. It was reaching it without wasting a single step. Number 10, don't waste a single step. In the Ice Age, every step had a price, not money, but calories. Unlike today, there was no guaranteed meal, warm shelter, or easy way home. The energy stored in your body was all you had, and once it was gone, there was no guarantee you could replace it. Walking through deep snow demanded far more effort than walking on solid ground, forcing every step to lift, push, and stabilize the body against an unstable surface. Ice Age hunters understood this through experience long before science measured it. That's why they rarely forced a new path when an easier one already existed. They followed game trails because animals naturally chose routes that avoided deep snow, steep slopes, and unstable ground, saving both time and energy. When traveling in groups, people likely walked single file so only the leader broke the trail, while others conserved strength. The lead position was exhausting, so the role probably rotated throughout the journey. Choosing the right route mattered as much as choosing the right destination. A steep shortcut could cost more energy than a longer valley route, while crossing a frozen river could save hours or end the journey if the ice failed. Archaeology supports this strategy. Studies of Upper Paleolithic mobility show that Ice Age people repeatedly traveled through river valleys, open plains, and natural mountain passes where movement was easier, water was reliable, and migrating animals were more likely to appear. The landscape itself became a network of survival highways. Every unnecessary step meant more calories burned, more sweat produced, more body heat lost, and more food needed before nightfall. The most successful hunters weren't always the fastest. They were the most efficient. They knew when to climb, when to go around, when to stop, and when to let the landscape do the hard work. Because surviving the Ice Age wasn't about working harder than nature. It was about working smarter. And sometimes, the smartest step wasn't taking one at all. Number 9. Know when to walk away. Hunger makes people reckless. The Ice Age punished reckless people. A herd of steppe bison might look like the opportunity you've been waiting for, but experienced hunters asked one question before every hunt. What will it cost? Every hunt was a gamble. The herd might be too far away, the wind could suddenly change, deep snow could slow the hunters, hidden ice could cause a fall, and a broken ankle in the Ice Age often meant death. Without hospitals, antibiotics, or enough healthy hunters to provide food, one injury could threaten the survival of the entire group. The prey itself was just as dangerous. A steppe bison could weigh nearly a ton and charge at incredible speed. A wild horse could shatter ribs with a single kick. Even a wounded reindeer could gore or knock down a hunter fighting for its life. Mammoths were even more dangerous. Adults weighed 6 tons or more, and a single swing of the trunk or tusks could kill instantly. Evidence suggests humans rarely attacked healthy adult mammoths alone. Instead, they targeted vulnerable individuals, hunted in coordinated groups, and used riverbanks, muddy ground, steep slopes, or natural traps to reduce the risk. Archaeology supports this strategy. Ice Age kill sites reveal carefully planned hunts rather than reckless attacks, with multiple animals processed efficiently by large groups. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherers observe the same behavior today. Experienced hunters abandon a hunt whenever the risks outweigh the reward. Science calls this optimal foraging, maximizing gains while minimizing costs. Ice Age people didn't know the term, but they practiced it every day. The greatest hunters weren't the ones who chased every opportunity. They were the ones who survived to hunt again tomorrow. Sometimes the bravest decision was walking away. Because living to hunt another day was often the greatest victory of all, and when the right opportunity finally came, there was one thing no hunter could afford to forget: their tools. Number 8. Never leave without your tools. A hungry hunter without tools wasn't a hunter at all. Spotting a freshly killed reindeer meant nothing if your knife was still back at camp. Without a sharp blade, skinning became slow, hides couldn't be removed efficiently. Tendons couldn't be collected for thread, meat froze before it could be carried home, and every wasted minute increased the chance that wolves, hyenas, or cave lions would reclaim the carcass. One forgotten tool could cost an entire week's food. That's why experienced Ice Age people carried more than a spear. A stone knife butchered meat, a scraper cleaned hides, an awl pierced leather for sewing, a hammerstone cracked bones to reach calorie-rich marrow, and a spear kept dangerous animals at a safer distance. Every tool had a primary purpose, but the best tools solved many problems. A knife also shaped spear shafts, prepared firewood, trimmed clothing, cut plant fibers into cordage, split bones, and even helped build shelters. Archaeology reveals how valuable these tools were. Tens of thousands of stone tools recovered from Upper Paleolithic camps still preserve microscopic wear marks from butchering, hide scraping, woodworking, and repeated sharpening. High-quality flint and chert were deliberately collected because they fractured into razor-sharp edges, and some sites contained stone transported more than 100 kilometers, proving valuable raw materials were worth carrying across enormous distances. Every tool represented time, skill, experience, and precious resources, so nothing was wasted. Ice Age people didn't measure wealth in gold. They measured it in usefulness. The right tool could feed a family. The wrong one, or no tool at all, could leave them hungry before sunset. But carrying good tools wasn't enough. They also had to know when the landscape itself was trying to warn them. Sometimes, the loudest warning was silence. Number 7. Listen to the silence. The most dangerous warning in the Ice Age was often the one you couldn't hear. A forest filled with birds, grazing reindeer, and small animals could fall silent in seconds, and experienced hunters knew silence rarely came without a reason. Long before humans spotted a cave lion, wolves, or hyenas, the rest of the animal world usually detected the danger first. Birds took flight, horses raised their heads, reindeer tightened their formation, and rabbits vanished into cover. Every species watched the others because every warning increased the chance of survival. Modern wildlife biologists call this a shared vigilance network, where different species rely on one another's alarm signals. Birds can warn deer, nervous deer can alert smaller mammals, and even predators sometimes watch prey because frightened animals often detect threats before they do. Ice Age humans almost certainly became part of this network. They didn't need to see a predator. They only needed to notice that every other animal already had. A herd of wild horses suddenly freezing, staring toward the same ridge, then exploding into a sprint told an experienced hunter everything. Something dangerous was already there. Archaeology can't preserve the sounds of an Ice Age forest, but it shows how people adapted to them. Many Upper Paleolithic camps overlooked valleys, river crossings, and open grasslands where approaching animals could be spotted early, while high ground provided precious seconds to react. Those extra moments could mean reaching the fire, climbing to safety, or gathering the children before danger arrived. Ice Age people survived because they constantly watched for change, knowing that every unusual movement or sudden silence carried information. The people who survived weren't the ones who searched endlessly for predators. They were the ones who noticed when nature changed. Because change meant information, and information meant survival. Sometimes the loudest warning was silence. And while predators hunted with teeth and claws, the cold hunted every second of every day. Number 6. Steal heat from the cold. The Ice Age had a predator that never slept. It never chased, roared, or left tracks in the snow. It simply stole your body heat second by second. You couldn't stop that loss, but you could slow it. Experienced survivors brushed snow from their clothing, removed anything damp, and dried wet hides beside the fire before resting. Because once snow melted into fur, it stopped trapping warm air and began pulling heat away from the body. Modern survival experts teach the same rule today. Dry clothing insulates, wet clothing drains heat. Wind was just as dangerous as the temperature itself. A calm day at -15 degrees Celsius could be survivable, while a strong wind at the same temperature dramatically increased heat loss and the risk of frostbite or hypothermia. That's why Ice Age camps were built behind rock faces, dense vegetation, ridges, or snowbanks that blocked the prevailing wind. Even a simple windbreak made a fire far more effective because survival depended not only on creating heat, but on keeping it. Night demanded another strategy. As the fire burned lower, people likely slept close together beneath heavy animal hides, combining their body heat to reduce heat loss. Modern science confirms that reducing exposed surface area helps conserve energy throughout the night. Archaeology supports this organized approach. Many Upper Paleolithic shelters placed the hearth at the center, surrounded by areas for cooking, tool repair, hide preparation, and childcare, allowing families to stay warm without unnecessary exposure to the cold. The people who mastered the Ice Age didn't create more heat. They simply wasted less of it, because in a world where every calorie mattered, saving energy was almost the same as finding food. And once the cold was under control, there was one race against time every single day: getting home before darkness did. Number 5. Find home before dark. In the Ice Age, the sun wasn't just a source of light, it was a deadline. Every hour raised the same questions. How far is camp? Do we have enough firewood? Can we reach shelter before dark? A hunt that lasted too long could become more dangerous than the prey itself. Once the sun disappeared, familiar landmarks vanished, hidden streams and deep snow became invisible traps, and predators such as wolves, cave lions, and hyenas grew more active. A hunter separated from the group after sunset wasn't just lost. They became prey. That's why experienced hunters planned the return journey before leaving camp. Finding shelter wasn't the last task of the day. It shaped every decision from the beginning. Contrary to popular belief, Ice Age people didn't simply live in caves. Good caves were rare, many were damp or flooded, and others already belonged to cave bears, cave lions, or hyenas. Instead, people adapted. Archaeologists have uncovered mammoth bone dwellings across Central and Eastern Europe, where skulls, tusks, and long bones formed sturdy frames covered with animal hides. Other groups built shelters from wooden poles, branches, hides, and packed snow. Location mattered more than construction. A good campsite offered protection from the wind, reliable water, nearby firewood, clear visibility, and enough distance from animal trails to reduce unwanted visitors. Archaeology shows many of these camps were occupied repeatedly for hundreds, even thousands of years, proving people returned because those places consistently kept them alive. Even after returning, work continued. Gathering firewood, collecting water, repairing tools and hides. preparing food, and assigning everyone a role before nightfall. The race against darkness wasn't won by speed. It was won by preparation. A shelter wasn't simply where you slept. It was where tomorrow began. And once food finally reached that shelter, one final question remained. Who would eat first? Number 4. Share or starve. A successful hunt didn't end when the animal fell. It ended when everyone had eaten. In the Ice Age, food wasn't personal property, it was insurance. No hunter succeeded every day. Some returned with meat, others came home empty-handed. And tomorrow those roles could reverse. A family that refused to share after one successful hunt might starve after the next failed one. Cooperation wasn't kindness, it was survival. Large animals produced far more meat than one family could consume before it spoiled. Even in freezing weather, exposed meat attracted wolves, foxes, hyenas, and scavenging birds, so keeping everything often meant losing much of it anyway. Sharing reduced waste while strengthening the entire group. Children received the nutrition they needed to grow. Elders preserved invaluable knowledge of migration routes, weather, predators, medicinal plants, and tool-making. Injured hunters had time to recover, and pregnant women remained healthy enough to raise the next generation. Every shared meal became an investment in the group's future. Archaeology strongly supports this system. Upper Paleolithic kill sites contain animals far too large for a single household to consume, while butchering patterns reveal organized processing, transport, and distribution among multiple people rather than isolated families. Some camps also contain specialized areas for preparing hides, repairing tools, and processing food together. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherers observe the same pattern today. Food sharing is the rule, not the exception, because groups that cooperate during hardship are far more resilient when food becomes scarce or the environment suddenly changes. The Ice Age rewarded cooperation, not because sharing was kind, but because sharing kept more people alive. The strongest individual could survive for a season. A united group could survive for generations. But even around a full campfire, no one could afford to stop watching, because while people were eating, something else might already be hunting them. Number 3. Something is always hunting you. For Ice Age humans, every hunt worked both ways. While you searched for food, something else might already be searching for you. A flock of ravens circling overhead, a herd of horses suddenly bolting, or reindeer freezing and staring in the same direction could all signal the same thing. A predator had arrived. Cave lions, wolves, hyenas, and cave bears rarely announced themselves. They relied on surprise, and Ice Age people understood they weren't the strongest or fastest hunters on the landscape. Humans survived by refusing to think like prey. One person watched ahead, another behind, while others scanned the ridgelines and kept children close. Fire added another layer of protection. Although it couldn't stop every attack, bright flames, drifting smoke, and an alert group often convinced predators that humans were simply too dangerous to challenge. Most predators avoided unnecessary injuries because a wounded lion couldn't hunt, and a wolf with a broken leg could starve. Instead of overpowering every predator, humans made attacking them seem like the worst choice. Archaeology supports this strategy. Many Upper Paleolithic camps overlooked valleys, river crossings, and open plains where approaching animals could be spotted early. Evidence of repeated fire use, defensive camp placement, and coordinated hunting suggests people deliberately reduced the chance of being surprised. Experienced hunters never focused entirely on the animal they were tracking. While their eyes followed the herd, their ears listened to the wind, their noses searched for unfamiliar scents, and their minds kept asking one question: what am I not seeing? The greatest danger wasn't always the predator you could see. It was the one that had already seen you, because awareness was often a better weapon than any spear, and surviving another day required more than sharp eyes. Eventually, every blade became dull, and every tool needed repair. Number 2. Fix it before it fails. Most tools don't fail at the beginning of a hunt. They fail when you need them most. A loose spear point, a cracked shaft, or weakened sinew could turn a perfect opportunity into a failed hunt. One damaged weapon meant lost food, wasted energy, and another day of hunger. Ice Age people learned a lesson still taught by modern survival experts. Never repair equipment after it breaks, repair it before it can. That's why evenings around the fire were more than mealtime. They were workshops. Stone blades were sharpened, spear shafts checked for cracks, bindings tightened, hides stitched, fire-starting materials kept dry, and even the smallest fracture repaired before it became a broken tool. Maintenance wasn't an extra task. It was part of survival. Archaeology reveals this habit everywhere. Upper Paleolithic stone tools preserve multiple generations of sharpening marks, showing they were repeatedly reshaped instead of discarded. Spear points were mounted onto new shafts, scrapers were sharpened dozens of times, and nothing useful was wasted. High-quality flint often came from quarries many kilometers away, making every finished tool the product of time, skill, and valuable resources. Replacing a tool was difficult. Maintaining it was far easier. The strongest hunter became helpless the moment his tools failed. The careful hunter rarely faced that problem, because preparation always defeated panic. And after every blade was sharpened, every binding tightened, and every ember covered for the night, one final task remained: planning tomorrow. Number 1. Survive tomorrow, tonight. The Ice Age wasn't survived one day at a time. It was survived by preparing for tomorrow before today was over. As darkness settled and the fire crackled, the day's work simply changed. Hunters reviewed where they had seen reindeer, which rivers were beginning to freeze, where wolves had been spotted, how much dried meat and firewood remained, which tools needed repair, and who would lead the next hunt. Every answer shaped tomorrow's chances of survival, because waiting until morning was already too late. Archaeology shows this wasn't instinct, it was planning. Upper Paleolithic people returned to the same productive hunting grounds, seasonal camps, and migration routes year after year. They remembered landscapes, anticipated animal movements, and prepared for changing seasons long before they arrived. That ability separated humans from nearly every other predator. A lion reacted. Humans planned. A wolf followed prey. Humans predicted where prey would be days or even weeks later. The future became humanity's greatest weapon. Every successful hunt, safe campsite, repaired tool, and shared meal began as a decision before it became an action. That habit allowed small bands of humans to survive one of the harshest climates our species has ever faced, spread across continents, and outlast predators that were larger, faster, and stronger. The Ice Age rewarded those who prepared before they needed to. Because tomorrow wasn't one tomorrow. It was one tonight. And that's the real secret behind humanity's survival. People often ask how humans conquered the Ice Age. It wasn't mammoths, it wasn't spears, it wasn't even fire. It was thousands of small decisions, repeated every single day. Read the sky, protect the fire, choose the right water, wear the right clothing, read the ground, save your energy. Know when to walk away, carry the right tools, listen to nature, protect your body heat, find shelter before dark, share your food, stay aware of predators, repair what keeps you alive, and always plan for tomorrow. None of these skills was extraordinary on its own. Together, they allowed ordinary people to survive an extraordinary world. Humanity didn't outlast the Ice Age because we were the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest. We survived because we observed better. We adapted faster. We planned further ahead. And we never stopped learning. Those same instincts still shape us today. The world has changed. Human nature hasn't.